Alrighty, let's talk about equipped single ply programming. Now, in both camps, I will say that grooving with speed is going to be the name of the game. Developing muscularity is going to be somewhat overrated, and I know that is a funny statement, but let me put it this way. If you learn the shirt well enough, let's say you're in a whatever, we'll pick a random size, 50. You're in a 50 shirt. Let's say you're getting 20 kilos out of it. If you learn that shirt well enough and you size down to a 48, you just added another 20 kilos. If you size down another size, you just added another 20 kilos. So you'll have added 40 kilos by learning the equipment. Just like in a raw bench, I am doubtful that you will add 40 kilos within a year or 2 years or 5 years to your bench. Um, so, when you're in the more beginner stages of learning the shirt, and when I say beginner stages, I mean that could last a year or 2 years or 3 years, probably a year or two. The name of the game should be learning how the shirt works and really manipulating that variable so that you can get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 kilos out of the shirt if you really want to. So that is going to be number one. Uh, let's break this down into two categories. We have the more casual lifter, if you want to use that word, and the more serious lifter. Now, for the casual lifter, I would recommend getting in the shirt something like one time a week, at the minimum once per 8 to 10 days. Uh, Getting in the shirt frequently, just like any lift. Imagine if you were a sumo deadlifter and only conventional deadlifting all the time, and then once every month you do 1 to 5 reps of sumo deadlift. Your deadlift would probably feel like crap. Instead, getting in the shirt, doing reps, learning how it works, learning about the knobs and how to play with them, learning the variables. That is going to be what's key. So I would use that session to do some rep work, work up to a touch, and then do a little bit more rep work, and that would be it. I would decrease the peak intensity of my raw work and slightly decrease the volume, and really focus on trying to keep the body healthy and just trying to work that groove and really learn it. Really learn how to be aggressive on the eccentrics. Because the faster, like I mentioned yesterday, the faster you can get the bar down to the chest, the less energy you will expend. The more you learn that groove, the tighter gear you can wear, and the more you'll get out of it. So what I would do is something like, let's say, 2 to 3 sets of rep work, really learning that groove, and then working my way up to a touch, maybe 1 or 2 sets. You'll notice it is quite mentally fatiguing. Probably not actually that physically fatiguing, but the mental fatigue is significant. And then maybe doing one more set of rep work. Let's say you can touch with 200 kilos. I would do something like 180 for 5. And these reps do not. I have to be careful how I word this, but these reps do not have to be picture perfect. I wouldn't worry about, this rep was a 3 board, the next rep was a 2 board, the next rep was a half board. It's fine. You're just learning the groove. That is the point of it. You're just learning how the movement works. You're a toddler learning to walk. I would do 180 for 5, maybe 190 for a triple. 197 I would try and touch, then would try one more and try and get a touch, and then I would do something like 180 or 185 for another triple, 3 to 5 reps, and I would really be trying to force as much range as possible. If you wanted to, you could use something like boards as a target. And when I talk about boards, I do not mean wooden boards, I do not mean bench blocks, I do not mean anything that has a wide surface area or is solid. I think that it has an exceptional negative effect on people's bench press. A board or anything rigid with a wide surface area is going to give you an artificial sense of stability and control of the weight. It is not realistic whatsoever. You'll notice if you look at my videos that either I use no board at all, or at the most, it's a folded knee wrap. The folded knee wrap is soft, it is narrow, it is unsupportive, and it's simply there as a target. So if you wanted to, you could use a folded knee wrap as a target, do something like a double to a quote 3 board, a double to a quote 1 board, and then try and touch that last rep. But I would not be using hard, wide boards. That's how I'd look at it from a casual lifter's perspective. For a more serious lifter trying to really whore out the gear, pardon my French, uh, for the more serious lifter, I would try and get in the shirt, honestly, twice per 8 to 10 days. Twice a week is a little bit much, but twice per 8 to 10 days is kind of the sweet spot. And I would focus on a day where you're just trying to touch. So kind of a similar way of ramping up. I think the rep work, not only does it help set the shirt in the right spot, it also just kind of gets you, again, learning that groove and really being aggressive on the eccentric and touching lighter weights. And that is the goal. We want to be touching light weights. That is always the goal. Just like if you were raw squatting and all you did were, if all you did when you were squatting are raw singles all the way up to a maximal load, that would probably feel absolutely horrendous. It's the same thing here. We want to do some reps, work up to a touch, and that's all I would really do on that day. Maybe 1 or 2 touches, and then I'd do some accessories, and that would be stuff that is really easy on the body. Maybe some machine presses. I would focus on the upper pec, the front delts, the triceps, so maybe some incline machine presses, maybe some incline dumbbell presses, and of course, press downs, overhead extensions, what have you. On the second day, I would make this more of a rep or strength day, and that could be something like banded pressing. It could be board combos, like I mentioned. I really liked doing something like 1 or 2 reps to a 2 board, 1 or 2 reps to a 1 board, and then 1 or 2 reps to a 2 board. Depending on how tight your shirt is and how much you're getting out of it, it'll have an effect on how many reps you're able to get per set until your head wants to explode. That is truly going to be the limiting factor. Is going to be your mental tolerance more than your physical. Banded pressing is also fantastic as you get a really heavy load at the top, working the triceps, and at the same time you can sort of ease the burden as it comes down. I would do a third exposure of just base raw work. A set of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Maybe the RPEs on that is something like a 6, 7, 7.5, 8. Just maintaining your raw strength. And the reason I wouldn't really do more than that is because a raw competition press is just going to have not too much transferability to your equipped press. The groove is different, the strength curve is different, especially as you get tighter and tighter in the equipment. If your shirt is loose, yes, there will be greater transferability. But as the shirt gets tighter, the strength curve and the overall groove becomes more and more dissimilar. The touch becomes so much lower on the chest, and the amount of chest strength you need becomes far, far less. The shirt really starts to take that load off the bottom, and it does become sort of a half rep, to be quite honest. I would emphasize, yes, the upper pecs, the front delts, the triceps. That is how I would be programming for this. Just trying to think if I'm missing anything else. Casual lifter, 1 time a week, some rep work, get to a touch, some more rep work, decreasing the peak intensity, really trying to stay healthy. The more serious lifter, twice every 8 to 10 days, a touch day, a rep day, 1 time a week on the raw work. I would also note that for both of the lifter categories here, You may notice your raw bench feels clunky during this period, and that is fine. Think of it as if you were doing a, I don't know, front squat or I don't know, a Zercher squat, or I'm trying to think of other things that are very dissimilar to competition lifts. And your competition lift might feel a little bit clunky during this period. Not only are you decreasing the amount of specificity that you're training, you're also going to be adding fatigue, which in general leads to lifts feeling clunky. You know, if you did a bunch of heavy raw singles, I'm sure your rep work would not feel that great. So in general, I wouldn't be too afraid if your raw work feels a little bit clunky. You'll take a couple weeks off out of the shirt, and it'll be feeling back to normal. I think that's all I got. Is that I would really be focusing on grooving these reps, really trying to learn the groove, and just like I mentioned yesterday in the video about what was that technique, I would really be focusing on trying to learn the groove, being aggressive on the eccentrics, and from there you'll learn that, look, if you can tighten the shirt over and over and over and over again with clean reps, you will be adding quite literally dozens of kilos to your bench press. Don't get me wrong, after a few years, and we can use myself as an example, you will get to a point where you can't really tighten the gear very much more, and you do have to, unfortunately, you do have to start building some raw strength. You got to start putting some meat on your triceps, but especially for the casual lifter, the amount of weight you can get out of just learning the shirt and tightening it and learning the groove, it makes it so that adding additional significant fatigue by hammering your triceps or your front delts or whatever, it's just not worth it. You're better spent being more and more aggressive with your shirt and learning that groove and adding dozens of kilos that way. I believe that's all I got. I think those are the main focuses. That the raw bench becomes less and less relevant, and it's important to just treat it kind of like just a base strength movement. And for the serious lifter, getting in as frequently as possible. For both lifters, really trying to focus on an aggressive eccentric, really learning to touch, learning that groove, and being fast with it. Just like any lift, if you don't do reps, how do you expect to be competent? It would be an absurd thing to believe. This video is getting long, 13 minutes. Hope that helps. Hope that makes sense. If you have questions, feel free to message me.